Gear up, because this is the Fuel Your Marketing podcast, designed to accelerate sales and grow your business. Let's welcome your host, Artie Sharma.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fuel Your Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Artie, and today I have with me a very special guest. Mathieu Gamache has been a marketer, a go-to-marketing senior leader with a variety of CPG brands specializing in food and beverage. And today I have with me as my guest to discuss go-to-market strategies and what's brewing in the CPG market, what trends are we seeing. And with any further ado, I'd like to welcome Mathieu. Mathieu, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Artie. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. And so tell our audience who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your past experience and your journey.
Yeah, I'm a marketer by trade, specialized in CPG, and more specifically in food and beverages. I've been in the industry for now, I'd say 18 years. I started at Kraft Foods out of my MBA, and I stayed there for 9 years. Great school for marketing CPG, especially in the years where I was there. It was great leaders over there. I learned my trade really at Kraft Foods. And from there, I went to McDonald's in QSR industry, which is, if you like the means to create great campaigns, McDonald's is the place to be. They got a huge budget, and they're developing a ton of creative work. So that was also a very good school through volume, basically developing a ton of campaign, innovating in the menu. So it was a great period of time, a ton of learning, and I took it to Hershey, which is a not better place to work in the chocolate factory. So I went in the chocolate factory, and again, I had a ton of fun there. Really great creative work, unique to Canada work. So there's not a whole lot of place nowadays where you can do unique to Canada work in big CPG. I had the opportunity to manage a team for the portfolio of everyday chocolate, but Reese's being the crown jewel of the brands that we're managing, and O. Henry, which is a unique to Canada, or uniquely popular in Canada brand, which is also a ton of fun. And I know my background in CPG, I made the jump. So a lot of people during COVID took a decision saying, hey, to start to rethink what they wanted to do and want to experiment new thing. I had a bit of a entrepreneurial kind of side in me, and I met someone in my building who was building a brand. I jumped in as an advisor first, and then an investor, and then I jumped in to help build the brand distribution network, go-to-market strategy, brand from zero, because there was only product in a bottle with no branding. So from scratch, developing a new brand with all the challenges that it entails. And you discover quickly that in the world of startup, it's not exactly the same as the world of big CPG. There's a whole new world of challenges. So we rode the roller coaster of startup, and that kind of gave me a new set of skills that I use and brought to founding my own consulting firm, mainly providing fractional CMO services for startup who they're at a certain stage in their growth phase where they need the expertise, but not necessarily can hire experienced marketers in their company just yet, but would benefit greatly from the experience to just take them to the next level. And that's where I intervene.
So CPG industry is your CPG market is your sweet spot, and that industry is something that you that interests you always. Now, you've definitely rode the roller coaster. You've seen the lows and highs of the industry. And from corporate to being an entrepreneur, that's another journey altogether. Talk to me a little bit about where are you seeing, let's dive into the CPG industry as a whole. Where are you seeing what the evolution has happened and where it's going? Do you have any commentary on that, considering that you have such rich experience?
What's really highly influencing and changing the world of marketing for specifically small companies, even big companies, where it's the rise of social media. That's not a new phenomenon, but it's being amplified, and it's taking more and more space. It means that, especially if you come from big CPG, when you use the traditional plan, they're going to do TV, they're going to do radio, and then God forbid print long gone. But so all this, which it would typically be a year-long plan. You produce all your material, you use it for a year, and then you start over next year. Now the cycle is so much faster. The longevity of the content that you're producing for your campaign to reach out to consumers, like, it's a lot shorter. The shelf life is shorter. You're gonna move. You're gonna be in the moment, more
Yeah,
contextual. That's like a much
100%.
much faster pace.
And I think part of that is because our bandwidth as consumers has also
Yeah.
shifted, right? So there's only so much noise that we can swift through, and you obviously have to put a new message out there. As a result, I think people are forgetting that that message has to be memorable, right? Even when
Yes.
you're pivoting too fast. So, so that's where the storytelling comes in. That's where the
Yeah.
content talks about, some of that. Are there any current trends that you're seeing as it relates to go to market or any, overall growth for CPG brands that companies must not ignore?
Well, I think what's becoming more and more important now is first party data,
Mm,
as in having your own channel, your own DTC channel, where you build a list of emails and names of your core consumers, and that becomes at the center of everything. It becomes more and more the place where you get the best return of investment when you nurture that list and grow that list. That's also becoming a place of innovation because you got a direct line with them, and you can listen to them. They got suggestions, they got complaints, and it's that's something that's becoming more and more important.
just like building that community around your brand is what you'd say.
Yes,
Mostly.
yes, especially when there was major change in the Apple iOS, where spending on social media, it kind of cut off our ability to really precisely targeting. Also, it made it a lot harder. And so now having your own data and being able to talk to your consumers that you know intimately and are provided their email is becoming central.
So you're currently consulting with Sperri, right? That's again one of the CPG beverage, plant-based beverage brand. Talk to me a little bit about what are the initiatives you are working on to create your brand affinity and create that loyal customer base, where you could not just expand your product offering, but also test out some new ideas and new
So
campaigns.
this product is as an added dimension to it, as in we have a B2B and a B2C business. So B2B is selling to clinics and hospitals. So it is a product that is used in the medical industry. And just to give it a little more detail on the product, think of it as insure and boost alternative where the traditional product in the industry had some shortfalls, dairy products, some allergen, and then not everyone can have them without having an adverse reaction to it, creates an inflammation, allergies, all kinds. And Sperry came in the market to fill that void. And what's special about our product, it's like, every product has that. Like, you got to understand the clear market fit, why your product exists, and why consumers are gravitating to you. And for us, because it has such a life-changing impact for some people, with the core consumers, then it's we start with testimonials. We start with the heavy users, the people who are really it's part of their life, and we that's the core of our campaign. That's the core of our message. That's what we use for our email marketing. That's what we use for our social media platform. It's also what's not unique, but what we need to understand about this product is, for us, is it's when you got a product that solves a problem, it means there's people with the problem searching for a solution.
Mhm.
So in our case, product search is important. Like, it's more central. It's a bigger part of our budget because
Mhm.
of that.
And I think list customer at the center of everything is what I'm hearing is where you're kind of centered around all your campaigns. And now, do you use customer feedback to define and evaluate your product market fit? And what role is your customer playing in evolving your products?
So we got, again, because it's a little bit of a unique we got two sets of consumers. We got the people recommending the healthcare professional, the caregivers, and we got people who got patients, and then just people self-diagnose and using it for
Mhm.
that reason. So we got feedback from specialists, what they need, um, based on their patient feedback, but based on their diagnostic and their own experience with patient with
Mhm.
treatment. So that is, we got a very direct connection because we have people visiting hospitals, and then we had a second set of email from the healthcare professional. So we get feedback there. And then we got like I said, a constant open line through email, consumer line, patient consuming our product and going. So when it happens that we have a production that it wasn't the quality wasn't up to par, and if it comes out and goes like, oh, it's not as thick, or it should be thicker. I'm used to it. So because you got a layer of consumers that are more highly involved with our product, the feedback is very vivid. And so here's the thing: when you got a product like that, and it's true for a lot of product, you cater to your most involved product, and there is collateral consumption coming with people who are light users, and that's great. That becomes a bigger part of your consumption. But we don't cater and design product and for that core consumer. We don't. If you try to go and please everyone, you dilute your offer and you lose your core.
Yeah, no, and I think your focus on what you do really well as a company, as an organization with the product or services, I think most companies would, as a part of their vision or their strategy, would get distracted with their shiny object syndrome. Of
Yeah.
course, you have to keep pivoting as the market evolves, as your consumer behaviors shift, or your consumer feedback comes in. You obviously have to evolve. But I think most success, especially the startup, I would say working with startups, we know that most success comes in when you really double down on what your strength is, where your core is, and you kind of
Yes.
expand on that offering first before you kind
Exactly.
of get distracted with another shiny object. So what should companies focus on when evaluating their product market fit in the CPG sector? Not just Sperry, I'm talking about. I'm talking about in your experience. What should companies be? Of course, you said customer and the consumer should be the core of it. But what kind of internal team involvement should happen in evolving a product? Is it the function of just the product team, or what's your experience on that?
It's such with product is like if you get lost, if you lose expertise of product internally, what happens is we see organization who get lost. And I would connect it to the challenge now with consumer communicate with consumers and resonating in a world where media is fragmented. Everyone has their own shows and their own channel. It's not so. In order to really break through with a product, authenticity is becoming paramount. And in order to be authentic when you communicate about your product, you need to always come back to the reason why your product exists. So a common mistake is you're entrepreneurial, you want to grow the business. It's easy to lose focus and then run after every opportunity you see. Oh, I heard a consumer like that. Let's do this. Okay, well, what was your initial mission? Why did you started the company in the first place? Why did that product exist? And then you always try to go back to that mission and that core principle of why you exist. And so that core has product knowledge, product people who can expand the product offer along that same, almost an editorial line.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the story you're telling of why you exist? And they keep focus on this and servicing that need. So you need a very strong product expertise. And sales is also a very important part of it, because that's, and then in longevity, we're using fractional service as well in sales, because it's a relationship business. We have the first contact through relationship and trust, and it takes time. If you get higher and get people who have that level of experience, have built those relationships, can pick up their phone and hear honest feedback because they have a trust relationship already established, so you know what's working, what's not working. As you're looking for there's product fit, but there's also channel fit, right? Because if you can have good product fit but not sold in the right place, then there's a shortfall. So that's the other piece where someone can have honest conversations. You know what? It doesn't work in our store, or it doesn't work in that location in the store, but it would work elsewhere. That's also a very important skill set you need to develop internally.
How about involvement of sales teams and customer success teams in evolving, growing the product, and of course, do you think that feedback loop internally is also very important as you start to kind of look at your product and say this is the core that we're going to market with, and we need to hear not just the customer side, but what are you hearing, sales reps or BDRs? What are you hearing after delivery, after sale, in terms of service? Do you think that feedback must also come in as you start to evaluate and re-look at your go-to-market motions?
We do go-to-market strategy with sales.
Mm-hmm.
because they get also direct feedback from buyers, and the buyers are they go into being the front line. They manage categories. They see what's working. They see what used to be working and not working anymore. They see emergent trend.
Mm-hmm.
And we like to co-develop, almost, so to speak, or not literally, but as much as want to involve them even product development. We're working right now in agility with innovation, and we've showed it to a number of big customers. Like, hey, what do you need? What do you think? We're evolving branding and packaging, and again, we're capturing their feedback, and we get super valuable feedback. And then so when you come back with the product finish and the sales sheet, they've been part of the process. Like,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier.
100%. And I think there's more buying. There's more, I think, affinity internally. And then that's what showcases and how people represent your brand and your product outside to the new prospective customers. We talked very briefly about Sperri and the channels a little bit. Talk to me about your experience as a leader working with CPG brands. Overall, are there any specific channels that, marketers and CPG organizations should definitely not dismiss? I know we're in the world of digital inbound, and the digital transformation is all over the place, especially with all the artificial intelligence. Channels have evolved, integrations are happening seamlessly. What channels in your mind are some of the best channels that CPG brands should definitely leverage?
So I'm also going to go completely the other way, as in from high tech to low tech, because now that I had the benefit of going to startup, and we're going to start. One of the thing is there's no silos. Everything is raw. You're in contact with everything. When in big CPG, there is a certain level. There are silos, and if I had a message to my fellow big CPG marketer is pay attention to shopper marketing, big time. Often most of the time it's a separate channel. There's shopper marketer in the organization. Everywhere I worked, it was a different, and then they were attached to sales. But what it means is greater partnership, greater integration. So you're doing a fully integrated marketing communication. Make sure that shopper marketing is part of it. Because I call it, this channel it's more vivid in a startup, as you want to spend the money as close to the cash register as possible, meaning when you spend, it translates as quickly to a sale as possible. And shopper marketing is probably the closest to the cash, because it literally is close to most of your execution is close to the cash register.
Yeah.
So that's why it's the higher tech version of what you do in store, displays, the on-shelf blades, couponing, all those things, is now all the main retailers have their own media department. It's literally a Walmart media, Loblaws media. It's a profit center for them. It's a priority. It's a growth center. Amazon is all media. Like, most of their money they make selling advertising. So, but they're also effective channel that you can measure. You can have an ROI, and you're building good relationship with them by spending with them, but also get a benefit. It's just you spend, people are in the channel searching online. It is really close to the cash register. So that's a channel that traditionally we haven't, like, it's fairly new, newish. In a traditional CPG, I didn't have it. There was more of a sales side, and still in most places. But as a marketer, to pay attention to those channels that are developing with retailers.
And I think all these big giants, they have collected their first party data. They're using their data now and reselling the consumer data effectively to create more shelf life online for newer products, right?
Absolutely.
And so do you know that, when a new startup product is coming out of the market, what role does influencer marketing play? Is there any role, any merit to that? Or do you think that's just one of the smallest channel that you could possibly leverage? Or do you think the partnerships with influencers also helps?
It does. Okay, influencer is when you're doing it well. It works really well. It's not an easy channel to execute. You need a partner. To look for a good partner who can help you execute an influencer, have the right relationship, who can identify the influencer that has a great fit with your product. Because it is a little bit of a jungle out there. You need a guide. You can find an influencer. A lot of people are ready to take your money and then create something. But why it's super important to have the right influencer is you need, again, your content to be authentic, not only feel it, be authentic. So the product needs to like really appeal to the influencer, because that's going to come through if it's just doing it to get rid of it and capture the money. So that's why you need a guide through that jungle. It's not a be all and all and go and do as an influencer, but it's going to
Yeah.
work.
I think it has to be also data driven, and have to do your due diligence in any channel that you invest in. When is it the right time to pivot? If, let's say, a channel isn't performing, what kind of data points or metrics that you look at before you say this is a no-go channel and we've got to pivot to something different to meet our sales targets, revenue targets, and still be aligned with that big purpose,
Yeah.
big goal.
It depends on the channel. It depends on the tactic that you've launched. But things that are all digital, you see it pretty quickly. We have a DTC business, a Shopify,
Mhm.
shop. We have Amazon too, and those places allow us to measure, like, really, like if something bubbles up, I see it. Like I see my number of session go up. When it goes up and my conversion stays the same, it's excellent, because I bring the good, more people and the right amount of people. They're buying at the same level. It's great. When it goes up and my conversion goes down, okay, I drove awareness. They went to my website. It wasn't right. It wasn't for them. They didn't convert. Like, I could see that there's an issue. There might a potential issue with the tactic that I executed, but not day two. I leave it a month and a half. Like, I'm experimenting with something now. I might say after a month and a half, we sat down, reconvened, look at the result, and decide I give a go no go to that tactic. There's like, what needs to be considered is, especially when it's broader awareness, consumers are not buying from first contact. It's typically around 7 times that you need to see it to build some kind of familiarity with the brand and then make purchase decision. So some of those tactics, you need to leave it a little bit of time. But my kind of rule of thumb is check in the first month. And if you're directionally good, give it another month. And month two, make a decision. But you got to be ruthless. You got to be somehow ruthless. Like, even if you invested, even if you
What's
plan for
your
4 months, it's in your plan. Sorry?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think going into sprints is a best way to go when it comes to such kind of marketing campaigns where everything is tied to the outcomes and how's it
Yeah.
impacting the P&L. 90-day sprints, quick, quarterly business reviews. I think those are great,
Yeah.
touch points um,
Yeah.
with your team. So I would highly recommend them as well. Do you have any specific funnel growth strategy that has worked really well and you want to talk about?
I don't know if it's like that for both, but for everyone. But Amazon's been our growth driver.
Mhm.
Amazon is it's probably a better ROI than the traditional. So I would say traditional. When you
Mhm.
start, you got your Shopify. You compare both and use Meta, the Instagram, and Facebook together, and some search buy on Google. Those now are very expensive, or at least for us, our cost of acquisition, they can follow that. It's hard to click through, get some click through. It's expensive. And then when you go to Amazon, although with this being said, you have to do Google. Like, I'm a product store that cannot be not on Google, and Meta is also good driver awareness. Maybe conversions less, but it drives. It's a fairly economical way to get awareness, to get eyeballs on your brand. So it has its function. But in terms of delivering right from a sales, I guess I'll use the expression again, close to the cash register on Amazon. That's where I'm getting um, quicker conversion, cheaper acquisition. For us, for our product specifically, it's been the place, or my preferred place, to drive immediate growth. I need other tactics to drive broad awareness, like just to maintain the top of the funnel. I can't afford to spend too much there. I need to stay close to the bottom. But yes, I mean, my go-to for growth for fast growth has been
Yeah,
Amazon.
that's good. And we're seeing some trends around that as well, especially
Mm.
for our D2C customers that we have under a different brand. By the way, just as for
Yeah.
our listeners, we have a different brand called Finelli. So
Mm.
we cater to our D2C customers under that program. I know that Amazon has kind of surged as a leader along with Meta
Yeah.
for obviously for CPG brands to invest their ad dollars and for the return on ad spend. Um, Talk to me about resource allocation. These are some specializations that we've come across and said people who really are specialized in running Amazon ads on Amazon networks
Yeah.
and whatnot. They probably are not as as aware or as seasoned to run the same kind of return on ad spend ads for Meta or other channels. Do you think resource allocation for CMOs and for fractional CMOs is an area that is always that always comes up in board meetings and discussions? And how can
Yeah.
brands really allocate their resources effectively?
So one of the first thing that I did when I joined, I was a fractional CMO in longevity, is to focus the spend. And
Mhm.
so fewer, bigger, better. We were doing exactly what you were saying, unspecialized media agency would, and I sparsed it out. So I gave Amazon to specialize them. That's what they do. Amazon, that's their specialty. So that's what they have. And we haven't, like Meta would deprioritize it. We're still spending, but I don't have expertise right now on that. But if I go, that's where I would go. It's just like, so the challenge in adding tactics and adding specialty, which that's what I want. If I do it, I want specialists. Is there's a setup fee and there's a transition fee. You don't want to multiply too many, so you got to balance that, like specialization and then agency. They got 5 agencies are specialized. Everyone had their fee for management, so that adds up. So we need to balance non-working media and working media.
Mhm.
So that's why I tend to, instead of going wide, I go narrow, but I move my focus. I focus on this now, but when I stop doing this and I feel something works better, I'm going to go use a specialized resources, I focus more my dollars there. So you know what I mean? I want to
That's
go deep, doing well,
mhm.
narrow, but my narrow path changes as opposed to a little bit of everything.
That's where you add value as a CMO for brands, where you come in and you know when to make that the right decision to pivot to which channel and at what stage come
Yeah,
back to that channel, right? And a lot of data mining happens behind the scenes that we're going to not get into today, but a lot of data mining helps make that decision as to what channels are close to the cash register, what's having the P&L
yeah,
impact, right? So I think CMOs roles have changed. They're more in the
yeah,
P&L than they used to be, more from creative to data to revenue, and RevOps has emerged as a very
yeah,
important function
absolutely.
within the teams, where RevOps is becoming and taking more center stage for how do you
Yeah.
optimize every I think siloed department to siloed functions to bringing marketing, sales, and all of this alignment together.
It's super important that my best friend is the CFO
Right.
because
Yeah.
say, for example, like a prime example, yes, Amazon is a growth driver, and for my cost acquisition is the lowest for now, but it's not my most profitable channel.
Hmm.
It's cheaper, but it's not my most profitable. My retail is most profitable. It's harder and it takes longer to drive growth at retail, at least for now in our conditions. So it is a decision between the two of us saying, okay, we're profitability is not going to be our number one for now. We're going to get the growth because there's other benefit in the system. Especially when you're small, you want to get to a certain level where you're producing where your production facility it gets efficient. You get to minimum runs every run, and then so you're becoming more profitable in your production. So there's phases. Right now, we're going where the growth is. Yes, it's not as profitable on that channel, but it gets us to a certain level. Once you get to that certain level, I can kick in the retail and start pushing retail. And when retail takes more room, then I'm going to peel back my investment on DTC because it's not as profitable. I'm going to move the money to retail because now I have enough growth to make choices. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
depending on the phase, and that's through the partnership with
with your
the
CFO.
finance guy.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think that's where a lot of breakage happens. Companies who don't do very well is where the leadership is very misaligned and they're not speaking, they're
yeah,
not in each other's business, if you will, right? They're not understanding perspective, they're not understanding and they're not tracking the right metrics to make those
Yeah,
informed decisions and take some really calculated risks as well, right? Because growth is
exactly.
also about taking risks. So I think we're kind of, getting to a place where I want to talk a little bit about your advice to aspiring fractional CMOs, especially after you've had such a glorious pre-seed round now with Sperri. What would you say
Well,
if you're a startup and you're kind of venturing into being a fractional CMO? What would you say they need to be?
yeah,
You
we're
know,
just like fractional CMO is the name, is the label for the industry. That's recognized. Um, but it's a business. You accept that it's a misnomer. Okay, you're not the CMO, as in you're the CMO, you're the director, you're the brand manager, you're the warehouse boy. it's it's you need to be. You can't take a CMO. You need to be at all the level. So it's not only a CMO hat. It's a hands-on. You all the way down to the execution. Get ready to get your hands dirty. And Yeah, because it's not, if you're getting into a fractional CMO career coming from big CPG, know that it's not all the answer. Like you can't force fit the process, the organization, just the structure of a big CPG. You gotta take what's working, what's needed at their stage, and understand that not all of it fit, not all of it is executable at the startup level. There's a lot of listening in the beginning, especially if you haven't been in the startup before, understanding your reality and be flexible. And it could be frustrating because you can say you're used to a structured approach, you're used to process. You do situation assessment, strat plan, you follow the plan. Expect that plan to be ignored sometimes or loosely followed, and it's okay. But if you can give like a little 10% of your structure, it's a win.
wow. And celebrate those wins, right? I mean, at the
Yeah,
end of the day, it's really hard coming myself from a corporate background to starting and owning your own business.
yeah,
At first, you're everything and you have
right,
nobody gives you credit for anything also.
right,
And you feel that, you're in this messy middle as you get to your, first seven figures to the second and then, you start to kind of become from an operator to become an owner. And same as with the chief marketing officers, I find that, when you're the first one in, you obviously are building a team and you go through a
yeah,
few people and go through some challenging campaigns and, non-performing
yeah,
campaigns to figure out your mix. And patience is a virtue during those times. As you said, listening is
absolutely,
important. And I think most importantly, as you're building your fractional CMO practice, I've spoken to a few, CMOs, fractional CMOs so far. I think time management is one thing that you also
yeah,
alluded
yeah,
to is an important factor because while you're in the midst of supporting clients, you got to focus on how do you grow your business as well. And that's where partnerships
exactly,
can become a really important motion for agencies
yeah,
and CMOs to work. I think some of our best customers we worked with, they always had a fractional CMO to guide the strategy, and then they came in to work very closely with us
yeah,
to make swift decisions,
yeah,
optimize the budgets, be able to make decisions when to pivot. Sometimes in the corporations, when you have no decision makers and everyone's making every decision, then that's also a problem, right? So
yeah.
that's where I think the role becomes really rewarding. But yeah, well, Matthew, you've embarked on a journey from corporate to being your own boss, and I
Yeah.
salute you because it's not easy to make that decision. But thank you very much for joining me on the show. It was a
Thank you
pleasure.
for having me.
So, talk to our audience and tell us where can they find you, and how can they connect with you.
So the name of my company is Birds Marketing Wingmen. You can find me on LinkedIn under Mathieu Gamache, and that's where I receive all my messages and my requests. So don't hesitate to reach out and connect. I'll be happy to help you if you need any help.
Yeah, well, thank you. So once again, Mathieu Gamache, look him up on LinkedIn. That's the best way to reach out. And as we build our community of marketers, we invite you to join us and leave us a comment at the end of this podcast. Once again, thank you for joining and thank you for tuning in. And we shall see you again at the next episode. Cheers for now.
Thank you for listening to the Fuel Your Marketing podcast. For more episodes, visit www.fuelyourmarketing.ca.